Welcome to the next lesson in our Statistics for Trading course. This lesson is the CIPP statistic that you'll find on our 30-minute range statistics reports. The purpose of this lesson is to help you to understand just what the CIPP statistic is and how you can use it in your thinking process, just like the other two statistics that we've had lessons on. When we know statistics and know how to use them, these form the basis of our thinking and probabilities. This statistic can be very helpful. Let's get started. How is it that we use the CIPP statistic? Well, before we get into that, please make sure you watch the Inside PP and the EPP lessons prior to viewing this one, particularly in that order. Now, a lot of what you learn in those is very similar to this statistic. This statistic is based on the close of the current 30-minute period. Now, we would recommend that you would have a 30-minute bar chart on your screen somewhere. And the current bar would, if you showed it with a close on the bar, like an open, high, low close candle, that will show you the closes of the bars with respect to the previous bars. But we are working on a new indicator. We're just about finished with it. We just have some final steps to do, as you can see here in this video, this graphic rather, that will make it unnecessary for you to have a 30-minute bar chart on your screen. This indicator that we've developed draws a box around the previous 30-minute period and then shows the high and the low. And we're also adding, not shown in this graphic, lines that show where the current high and low are with respect to the previous high and low. So that's going to be important. We'll have a separate video explaining how that works once we release it. Now, if you're a longer term trader, even an intraday trader, this statistic might not do you much good if you're trading for some hours or days. This is for short-term traders, those who trade usually inside a 30-minute period, or perhaps they go across 30-minute periods, but they're looking for signals very short-term. Now, how is it that we use this statistic? Well, you may find your own way to use the statistic, but this statistic primarily comes into play once the inside PP statistic is out of consideration. In other words, once the current bar is not an inside bar, that it's either tagged the high or the low, then we start looking at the EPP stat and now also the CIPP stat. And we're going to just show in this lesson how to do that and what the things that we're looking at. Just what is the CIPP statistic? Well, it stands for close inside previous period. We're going to define exactly what this is. It identifies statistically how often a given 30-minute period closes inside the previous period. Now, all bars that close inside, all inside bars, would also be counted in this statistic because they closed inside the previous period. So that's just something to keep in mind. We see here a bar on the screen. The red bar would be the bar that has closed inside the previous period. So we see the lines that mark the open, the high and the low, and the close. And you can see the red bar's close has fallen within the top and the bottom of the previous green bar. This graphic shows it a little bit better because we've drawn lines on the top of the previous bar and the bottom, the high and the low of the previous bar, using an OHLC candle instead of our regular candlestick bar. And we can see that clearly it's gone outside and come back and closed inside. Now, as mentioned previously, all inside PP bars are included in the CIPP statistic. And tagging the previous high or low does not complete the statistic. So it only falls into place the close of the bars, what is important. Here we have our typical 30-minute range report. We see here that the CIPP statistic is the last column. If you watch the other videos, and these other things have been explained to you. So here's an example. We have a low EPP statistic. So here we have a low percentage of the chance that the bar will encompass the previous bar. We have a 0% chance lately and a decent range that the current bar, this is the bar ending at 11 a.m., is going to be an inside bar. Now notice the 30% CIPP statistic. So this presents the possibility that the market could move outside the high or the low of the previous bar and keep going, or it's not going to retrace back far enough 70% of the time to close inside the bar. Now, we have to be careful here because remember, this is only at the time of close. So it is possible the price could dip below, could go outside. Let's just take the high, for instance. Price could go above the high of the previous, come back below, and then go back out and close outside. And that would not be, even though it came back in, it would not be closing inside the previous period. So it's important to know that when you're trading what some of the possibilities are. But this here is really a favorable statistic for this time period. It can help you to make decisions while you're trading. We know that the market runs from time to time, right? So is it more likely to run in this period? Well, you'd have to kind of decide that for yourself. One thing that I'd like you to keep in mind about our statistics are it's not a standalone trading system. So you want to use these statistics with your trade setups. You want to get to know the market. Some of our other reports, these reports, they can help you to get to know a market very well. And then when you're watching it, you get a feel for it. We're not recommending that you just read our reports and jump in and start trading day one. But instead of watching a market for a couple of months, maybe it's just a much shorter period of time once you see statistically how the market is behaving. And then you overlay the stats over top of your trading decisions so that when you're thinking about entering or when you're thinking about exiting a position, you're thinking probabilistically or you're thinking in probabilities and making decisions based on the statistics that you have. That's really how these statistics are used. Well, they're not really could you design a trading system around these? You probably could, but that's not really what our intention is for providing them for you. All right, here's a chart from this morning's ES. This is February 16th, 2021. Now you look at our latest range report here. You see our EPP is 13.64%. Our inside PP is 9.09%, and our CIPP is 54.55%. You see that when you compare those 30 days to 90 days, we see that they're similar, although it's a little more likely lately that the bar will be an encompassing bar, but the odds are still pretty low, at least historically. Now, what happened today? If we look at this first arrow here, we see that at that point the bottom is tagged. Now that means the inside PP stat is done, right? So what is it going to do from there? Now we start looking at, well, what are the percentage of time it's been encompassing? Well, we look at that and we say it's 13.64 lately, but even longer term, it's even less likely when you look a year out. So here's what happens. The market goes down. It's well outside the low there, and then it does a reverse. Now we look at the range at this point. At this point, the range is $12 on the ES. All right, now that's not ticks. Our indicator will display in ticks, but right now, because our reports are shown in dollars, we see that, we have a $12 range. If you look back at our median range, we're at 13.25, so we're within the ballpark, but it has a potential to go farther. So if you're trading here, you might be wondering, well, are we going to go farther? But let's say you have a signal here. Maybe you're looking at your own signals and you're looking at maybe a divergence signal or something that indicates a reverse is going to happen. Well, that's what happens here. It reverses. and then it goes back up inside. Now, what we're thinking about here now is, well, is it going to go back to the high and become an encompassing bar? Again, statistically, it's not very likely. Of course, remember that, in a 10% stat, that means 1 out of 10 days it did do that. So it is possible. It is possible. And we're looking at range, and we're saying, well, if it did encompass, you could do the math there, and it would be within the range. So it's possible. So you're kind of keeping an eye on that there. But right now, we're trying to decide, is it going to close inside? So still another possibility is that it could reverse again and go back out. So we're watching carefully. We're keeping these stats in mind. This ended up being inside, closing inside rather. It did not encompass. If you go back and look at your chart, you could look at this for yourself. So that's kind of how we use these statistics. It helps us to make a decision here. Now, let's just say after it reversed and it went back inside, you might be saying, well, statistically here, if you're long, you might be like, well, this might be a good time to exit. It doesn't look like we're going to go to the top statistically of the prior bar, and you get a reversal bar perhaps. You say, oh, this is a good time for me to get out. So the stats have helped you to make a wise decision on an exit. Sometimes the CIPP stat can be a counter trend because it's gone outside, and it's, the stat is suggests that there might be a reversal and it goes back inside. You have to decide those things for yourself. But it can start to become, I'm hoping you're able to see that this can become really powerful information when you're trading. Well, this concludes the CIPP lesson. I hope you found it informative. Thinking in probabilities can help you to be a better trader. And statistics, of course, provide the basis for that kind of thought. Now, after watching the Inside PP and the EPP and now the CIPP, I hope that you're starting to see how probabilities can be a powerful part of our thought process. It can help us to decide when to enter, when to exit. It can help us to determine risk as well. In subsequent courses, we're going to be considering our range reports, our daily range reports, that is, and we will also be considering our tagging of various targets such as overnight range, initial balance 1.5. And when we start linking those together with our inside PP, our EPP, and our CIPP stats, hopefully you'll be able to see just how powerful statistics can be in your trading. And here at statsfortrading.com, we believe that knowledge is power and that you should never take the trader out of the trade. If you found this video to be helpful, please like it and subscribe to our channel. And if you're not already a subscriber to our statistics, please consider subscribing to our statistics at statsfortrading.com. Thank you for watching and happy trading.